Charlie, thanks for bringing the piece of the benediction project, and I love the track that it's been on because these are my colleagues that I work with, and we've been chatting about it, and it's really wonderful to see the benediction project out and about. Can you tell us what it's a part of? You were explaining a little bit to me about what's at Sika right now, and your own philosophy about bringing art outdoors.
Yeah, right. So I have an exhibit at the Southeastern Center for Contemporary Art in Sika, and I had that planned. I was going to do something with sculptures outdoors and work indoors. But I also had this project going on up in Virginia where I live called the Benediction Project, and it was moving the sculpture from one faith place to another. And I just started it on my own because I've always been part of religious communities, and I've been an artist in the art world, and I kind of often saw them as like opposite each other, not understanding each other, and I thought the sculpture could be the in-between, you know. So it would serve the role of a faith community being involved with using art to represent something that they're interested in. In this case, it's about between the faith community and the larger community around them, and the sculpture is giving a blessing onto the rest of the community. So I decided that I would try out Sika and say, how about if we do this project there and we tie that together with the exhibit. So the time period, 40 days and 40 nights, is this biblical ring to it, and it's a nice idea of an amount of time that is significant and meaningful. So that's why I went with the 40 days. So Sika agreed that, okay, so bring an outdoor sculpture and something indoors every 40 days and move the benediction project to another place. So it's really trying to integrate those two worlds that I was interested in, you know, the faith communities and the art world.
I love that, and when you said that it literally sits right on in that space between.
Yeah, right.
Given the timing when we're doing this right now, and the terrible shooting, I imagine you heard about at Mount Tabor High School locally, that has affected our whole community.
Right.
And the other night we did a vigil here with our friends at Highland Presbyterian Church right next door, and there were members of both our congregations and people just from the community had come by, and part of the vigil we had folks write their own prayer or a word to the Mount Tabor High School kind of family and community. And my colleague and I brought it over to the school this morning, and in looking at what people wrote, just these unbelievably compassionate, loving words. What do you think that the Benediction Project, what would this sculpture say, based on the sculpture's travels thus far, but from both sides, what blessings have come from the host religious community, and what people on the receiving end have maybe been looking at and wondering or thinking, or do you think that the project could speak what that sculpture says?
Well, that's kind of difficult because
well, first of all, it's very sound.
Yeah, he's mute, you know. So I also just read last night that St. John of the Cross said that silence is God's first language. And you know, the sculpture stands there silently, but in a universally understood gesture. Even if we think of it broadly, it's a touchdown. You know, it's you know, but the hands up thing is just, it's symbolically readable, and when it's placed near a church or a faith community and facing out from there, it just seems to me it's a friendly gesture. You know, it's and he's colored white, which is in kind of visual language. It has kind of connotations, and when it's connected with a faith, I think it communicates too. But I think that you know, what you were talking about earlier, that interaction between your two communities here that are back to back literally here. That's really what I enjoy myself about the project is getting to know different faith communities and the people in them, discovering that you're good friends with the imam at the mosque.
Groups,
At the mosque, and discovering that there is this connection that is going on between faith communities, to me is very, a very positive thing. Makes me feel good to discover that. So a lot of what the project is about really is talking other people into working with me on something that makes me feel good.
This area, when the community in Salem, the old Salem, was founded, it's by a Moravian community who literally named the place Peace.
Right.
And I think we're not always perfect on it at all, but I think the essence that runs through a lot of the work here in this larger community is about bringing peace, and the religious communities help to make that happen. And I thought about your project that you have online. I saw of all these ladders that you had on display in Old Salem.
Right. Yeah.
Can you just give a quick word on what that was and how that worked?
Yeah, so the projects were called Rise Up, the name of a community, or Rise Together. And I did it for the first time in a city here in Winston-Salem. And that was also through Sika. They had a year when they weren't going to be doing exhibits in their building. They were going to refurbish the building, and they would do things in the community. And so I said, I have this project that I'd like to try out, where I'll borrow ladders from the community, saying to anybody and everybody, lend me a ladder, and it will represent your hopes and dreams. And I'll tie it together with other people's ladders, and they'll lean on each other, holding each other up, and we'll build a structure about what a community really is. And everybody's hopes and dreams tied together. And that idea of connecting, again, is there too. It's just like with this project, it's about those connections. And again, for me, as an artist, it was very enlightening and fulfilling to discover communities and work in them. Because if I said it's going to be about the whole community, so what's here? I have to try to find out as much as I can about the community to go to every part of it and say, lend a ladder. And so there's a similarity between.
Well, and if you can find the project, I think you may have a website that you could send me that will get out to look at the ladder project. It is remarkable because of all the tools that we use to build something. A ladder is critical in that, and to build, and the ladders that he structured were like a house. And it's really quite stunning. St. John of the Cross, of whom I really don't know much of anything. That's not my department. No. But that idea of silence, creation starts with basically silence. God's name in Hebrew, the four letters that we don't pronounce them, we give a nickname to it. They're all very breathy letters. They're not a hard consonant. They're just breath. And that's where we start with breath, silence, the unspoken. And the very first letter of the Hebrew alphabet, is a letter that makes no sound. It's just a letter in potential, or it's an actual letter, but it's a letter waiting to make a sound. It's reliant on whatever vowel is with it. Because then it can be an ah, an e, an o, an oo.
Right.
But it's waiting for something. It's that, what happens before we speak. And that's where we find God, or a place where we can find God. I think we'll call it there for now. But it is, I just can't thank you enough for bringing this to us and letting us be a part of this project with our larger Winston-Salem community and through Sika. Do check out, obviously, the exhibit that's going on at Sika. Check out materials that are online, and we are going to have Charlie here to do some teaching with our kids and some of our adults on, I believe it's October 3rd. We'll publicize all that, and we'll think about what this charges us to do.
Yeah.
How we can pray, what are our prayers, and that you're bringing it literally just a few days before the new year, and while we're in this month of Elul, which is the month that precedes Rosh Hashanah, that is a part of a 40-day period, from the
Right.
1st of Elul through Yom Kippur,
Yeah.
which mirrors the 40 days, 40 nights that Moses was on top of Mount Sinai repenting for the Israelites for the golden calf episode. It just fits, and yes, that was timed, but it does fit for our season right now. So thank you very much. We look forward to learning and talking more.
I've enjoyed being part of this too.
Thanks, Charlie.